Zulfi Bhutto of Pakistan. His Life and Times by Stanley Wolpert. Chapter 4. From Oxford to Karachi, 1950 to 1957. Suharwardi's coalition government collapsed in October, just one month after Zulfi had left Karachi. Suharwardi's Muslim League Punjabi successor, I. Chundrigar, held office for only 2 months. Sir Feroz Khan Noon stayed on as foreign minister in Chundrigar's cabinet. But soon enough, Chundrigar lost the support of his Republican Party bloc on the issue of separate electorates. After several days of indecision, President Mirza called upon Sir Feroz Khan, as leader of the largest parliamentary group in the assembly, to form a new ministry. He would have preferred to take over the government himself under a new form of constitution. Sir Feroz Khan Noon confided to his memoirs, but hadn't sufficiently prepared the ground with the army. Noon never really trusted his president, of whom he wrote, "His great quality was easy contact with the people of all shades of opinion. While he worked with the Awami or Republican ministry, he played bridge with the opposition leader of the Muslim League. Mirza received my advice with great attention and usually agreed with me except on important matters, as for example, on whether a democratic or the other form of government was more suitable for Pakistan. Once he had made up his mind to abrogate the constitution, he talked to me no more, planned things and kept me in complete ignorance." Suharwardi knew that if my ministry also went through lack of a majority, Iskandar Mirza would declare martial law and assume dictatorial powers. As Zulfi suspected, Mirza by then had resolved that this interlude of political haggling was almost over. Flying to New York just 1 decade after his first visit to United States, Zulfi Bhutto had ample reason to feel proud. He was not yet 30, but soon would address a committee of the General Assembly of the United Nations on an important subject. Yusuf Bush, who worked then for the Far and Near Eastern Review and was the head of the Free Kashmir Council, met Zulfi for the first time at the UN and found him a very bright young man, rather flamboyant, ambitious, self-confident, who had the appearance of superficiality. Bush, now Deputy Secretary General at the United Nations, later worked closely with Zulfi as one of his press secretaries and came to admire how genuinely concerned Bhutto was not only with improving the political situation but also the social situation in Pakistan. Zulfi's grooming and self-confident manner made him look arrogant, more like a dandy than a reformer at first sight. He was never a simple personality, often projecting one persona and hiding another, usually the more sober side of himself. He had no one-unit psyche. The task of defining aggression is indeed a gargantuan one. Zulfi began addressing the United Nations Sixth Committee on 25th October 1957. He recapitulated earlier assembly resolutions on the subject, spicing his Obiter dicta with other favorite Latin phrases he had so painfully memorized. If a man's ingenuity is limitless and if his resources and capabilities know no frontiers, then he is, and indeed must be, ingenious enough not only to define aggression but also to circumvent, subvert and abuse it. A definition under these circumstances would literally mean the presentation of our civilization on a uranium platter to a would-be aggressor, to a 20th century Genghis Khan or Attila, a would-be world dictator who would most certainly find the means to distort and mutilate the definition for his own wicked and gruesome ambitions. Less than 2 decades later, several Western diplomats had begun to fear that Zulfi Bhutto himself might perhaps become that very world dictator he now so innocently warned against. Zulfi quoted Hans Kelsen at length, putting what he had learned at Berkeley to good use. Kelsen had told his students that there were no general rules for international law, valid for the whole community. My delegation deeply respects the Charter of the United Nations. However, my delegation believes that no disrespect is shown or intended to this august organization if reality is mirrored accurately. Zulfi stated in an affirmation of Kelson's Realpolitik, it was not possible to have a legal definition of aggression. Despite his pessimism, Zulfi insisted that economic aggression or indirect aggression must be included in a definition were eventually to be adopted. He explained that with the Indus and all Punjab rivers rising in India or passing through Indian controlled Kashmir, Pakistan was vulnerable as a lower riparian to Indian interference in the assured supply of irrigation waters. A reduction would turn green, alluvial, and fertile fields into scorching desert, create famine, frustration, and fear, even compel civilized human beings to resort to cannibalism. He ended on a more optimistic note. We must strive tirelessly and continuously to achieve perpetual peace. That was a duty we owe not only to our own war-sick generation but to our progeny. He and Nusrat had 3 children by now. Benazir, their elder son Murtaza, born in 1954, and a second daughter Sanam, born that year 1957. Their 4th child, another boy, Shah Nawaz, would arrive in 1958. Zulfi had reasons to think of our progeny. A month later, 69-year-old Shah Nawaz died in Larkana. Zulfi flew home to bury his father in their ancestral village soil at Ghadi Khuda Bakhsh, Bhutto. He remained for 10 days in mourning at Al Murtaza, while relatives, friends, servants and neighbors came from near and far to offer their condolences and pay their respects, bowing low to the new Vadero Khan of this fast-rising branch of the Bhutto clan. On the eve of his 30th birthday, Zulfi was now heir to many more thousands of acres of Sindh and all his father's invaluable property and godfather guardian of all the women and children and servants living within the Bhutto compound. A leader who, for the remaining 2 decades of his life, would search tirelessly and continuously but never find perpetual peace.